Welcome to MacStories Unwind, the show that's all about the picks. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Fetici. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know what? I always enjoy this time of year because we're doing our picks. We're doing our best ofs for 2022. And last week, if you missed it, we did music, and we had a lot of music to share with everybody. And I think people have been picking through those lists and listening to the things they might have missed, which is kind of great. This week, we're going to talk about TV and movies.
Yeah, and I think as I was talking about this episode and as I was talking about sort of my best of lists for the end of the year, I think in 2022, for both of us, actually, and in a way that we did not anticipate when the year started, TV and movies are the categories that suffered the most in terms of time that went into this type of entertainment. And it's because we didn't know this when the year started, but we both ended up buying a house and moving in 2022 almost at the same time, and you actually did it twice.
Yes.
In the span of a few months.
Yes, and mine was all compressed into 6 months, and the reality was that there were many evenings during the last year when I would sit down on the couch to watch something, and I was just too tired.
Yeah.
And I either went to bed early or I did something else. I would read for a little while. And yes, so it has suffered, but we did have an opportunity to watch some things, and we're going to talk about those, and we're going to share some things that were recommended to us by members of the Club MacStories Discord, the subscribers to Club MacStories Plus.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, because we have a channel in our Discord for TV and movies, and people like to talk about that stuff there all the time. And I asked people to share what they've got going on in terms of their best of lists and got some fantastic recommendations. But let me start off with one of my picks. And I think I'm going to do what I did with the music episode. I'm going to tell you that this is my top pick of the year, which is Severance. I really enjoyed that.
It's mine too, I think. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other good ones this year too, but Severance was such a unique show on Apple TV Plus that I went into it not really knowing what to expect, because it seemed like it was presented in advance as maybe like a workplace comedy in a way. And I suppose it kind of is, but in kind of a very dark and ironic way.
You didn't think it was going to be creepy.
No, and it's super creepy, but also really one of those thought-provoking shows where, the whole premise is that the people who work in this office, they have their memory of their outside life erased every time they go into the office. And then it reverses when they leave the office and go back home. So there's a complete separation mentally between work and their private lives. And that, that's the kind of thing you might think, oh, it would be so great if I could live my life and not think about when I have to go into the office. But you know what? There's a very dark side to that. And especially the way it was presented in Severance. And I just think the casting here was amazing with all the characters and the actors who were involved, as well as the way the way the TV show is shot. Because when I think of Severance, I always think of a labyrinth of white corridors and people running through the corridors. It's like they're like rats in a maze, I think, and that's obviously very purposeful. That there's no sense of time or place or really what's going on when you're in this labyrinth of white hallways.
Yeah. Severance, I think what it did for me is it filled that sort of hole of creepiness in a way that was left open by a show like Lost, for example, many, many years ago. You get that sort of vibe when it comes to like this organization behind this office in Severance, and say, for example, the Dharma Initiative in Lost. At least that's the vibe I got. And I don't know, it's just the general mood and how this is effectively built on two timelines, but the timelines are not like usually you get like the flashbacks or the flash forwards and the current events. Here, it's all current events, but it's also two timelines because the person inside the office has no recollection of the person outside the office. That's the Audi and the Inni mechanic, which is very original and very fascinating. And obviously, the final episode of the first season, ended to say a cliffhanger would be an understatement, like the major
Right.
reveal that they saved for the final episode and the tension behind it. It was incredible. It is my show of 2022. I absolutely cannot wait for season 2 of this. And it's I who knew that Ben Stiller had this in him? Like, I mean, you think of Ben Stiller, you're like, wait, what? This show was directed by the guy who made Zoolander guy, and
Right.
yes, turns out yes.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting about our lists this year, Federico, is there's at least for TV, there's an awful lot of Apple TV Plus in here. And I was thinking to myself, why is that? Why did I watch so much Apple TV Plus this year? And I guess there are two things going on. One, I think that TV Plus has really done a good job making solid shows. I mean, it's not got the biggest catalog, but there are some really good shows that came out, and especially in the past year. The other thing is, though, I think just because you and I follow Apple so closely, those are the ones that rose up to the surface and I noticed the most. And in what was a very busy year, the easiest things to find and watch. So you will notice an awful lot of TV Plus in this list.
Yeah.
My second one is Loot, and
Yeah.
this
Same
really,
here.
this one really filled the comedy hole for me this year.
Yeah.
Especially when I was busy, having a short show that I could watch on a Friday night was a lot of fun. I mean, Loot is starring Maya Rudolph, and she plays a rich woman who has been recently divorced and is trying to find a new life through working through her charity that she set up. And instead of just giving it money, giving it her time too, and getting to know the people in the office. And this is really a true workplace comedy in the way that Severance is not at all. I mean, it's about a very interesting cast of characters with interesting personalities. And I think that the season did what really well was take its time introducing each one of the characters to the audience and what they're all about and what their motivations are. And I was very much left at the end of the season hoping for more. And there just wasn't, I'm looking forward to it coming back because I felt like I really wanted another 5 or 6 episodes out of that first series.
You mentioned why there's a lot of Apple TV Plus in this list, and personally, I can tell you that the reason is very simple. I actually stopped paying for Netflix for the better part of this year. We actually did not have Netflix here. I recently signed up again because, as you know, we've been talking about this in Unwind. We did a whole marathon of Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, which was a rewatch for us, and the El Camino movie. And it was just easier to get and cheaper to get those on Netflix. Eventually, also El Camino is a Netflix movie, and I can tell you, we didn't really like it. I mean, it was
okay.
It was a nice send off for Jesse Pinkman, but it's might as well not exist, and nothing changes in terms of the Breaking Bad universe. A couple of things I want to mention here. Obviously, Better Call Saul Season 6. This was also an earlier pick for me earlier in the year on Unwind. This was the final season of this prequel to Breaking Bad. We didn't particularly like the very finale of Better Call Saul, but overall, Season 6 and overall the show, it truly stands on its own as one of the greatest dramas that I've seen on television. I mean, doesn't beat Breaking Bad. I can tell you that, having rewatched Breaking Bad, having finished Breaking Bad again just a couple of days ago. But Better Call Saul, I mean, the whole character of James McGill and Saul Goodman later, just an incredible character, so well studied, so well researched and developed throughout the course of 6 seasons. And season 6 came out this year. Also from Apple TV Plus, though, I want to mention season 3 of For All Mankind, which I absolutely loved this year. I think season 3 was my favorite. Maybe? Yeah, I think it was my favorite. Definitely the most intense of all the seasons. It ended with this. Well, I don't want to say that there may be people still behind on the series, but let's just say that it ended with a bang, quite literally. And I cannot wait for season 4 to see. We've seen a time jump once again at the end of season 3. I loved all the new characters that were introduced or developed further in season 3. For example, Margot or Aleida or I forget the name of Ed Baldwin's and Karen's adopted daughter, but her. And yeah, like all the Steven, the son of Gordo and Tracy Stevens, like all the characters that used to be like secondary characters and were given like a more prominent spot in season 3. I think that was definitely the right call, and it's also necessary because of the generational approach that For All Mankind takes, given that it goes from time jump to time jump in the evolution of the exploration of space from NASA and other agencies. So season 3 of For All Mankind, even though I didn't really have time for a lot of TV and movies this year, I always made sure that I had time to watch the episode of For All Mankind when it was available on Friday for me. I hope that season 4 comes out soon in 2023 because I need more of that.
All right. Before I mention my last two picks, which are both TV Plus picks too, I want to mention Stranger Things. Stranger Things, which is a Netflix show, has been ramping up more and more with each season into the weirdness and creepiness and horror side of things. And I think this year was probably the most horror-like of any of them, with the monster that's terrorizing this town. And this season, I watched in I think 2 days. It was incredibly long. It was done in 2 parts. I guess I did the first part right around the time it came out, and then the second part a couple of days after that. And the last couple episodes of this were movie length. I mean, they were, I think, I don't even remember exactly, but it was like 2.5 hours for the very final episode. So it, yes, is a little bit indulgent. It's maybe a little over the top, and maybe it could have been better edited, but I still think it was a lot of fun and a great distraction. And I loved having this in the middle of the summer as just kind of a way to lose myself in this weird science fiction horror genre. And I've always enjoyed the characters in this small town. And this year, the show was set in both Russia and parts of the United States, and all kinds of like side stories happening. And especially binging it, it was easier to keep track of all the threads as they all came together at the very end. And I just enjoyed it a lot. I think it's, Stranger Things has always been one of my absolute favorite Netflix shows, and it's easy to see why it really drives subscriptions, because it's become a total event now for people when it's out. So the last 2 TV Plus shows I want to mention are Slow Horses and Bad Sisters. Slow Horses is a very classic spy story that's set in England, and it's just resumed for its second season. And I'm really enjoying the second season so far, and maybe I'll talk about that in a future episode. But the first season was fantastic. These are like hour-long stories about a group of spies for the British government that are kind of the ragtag group of people who have screwed up in some way and been shuffled off to this slough house, which is a place for spies who have gotten themselves into trouble. So their careers are going nowhere, but they find themselves in the middle of a hostage situation and trying to figure out what happened and what's gonna, how to find the bad guys. And I don't want to go too much into the plot, but it is a fantastic show. And then finally, I want to mention Bad Sisters, which is a fantastic comedy mystery set in Ireland about a group of sisters and one of their husbands who turns up dead at the very beginning of the season. And it's a bit of a whodunit. and the sisters and the insurance company. There's this hapless insurance guy who doesn't want to pay out on the life insurance policy for the husband. And so he's trying to find out whether there was foul play, and he can deny the insurance policy. And that's kind of the setup for what is, I think, about an 8-episode series that is a lot of fun because it jumps back and forth in time to when the husband was alive and what his life was like before he died, and then the present time where everybody's trying to figure out how did he exactly die and what was his relationship with all these people in the show. So definitely recommend watching that one as well. And it's been renewed for another season too. Federico, why don't we mention a few movies before we give some recommendations for the club? What do you have on the movie side of things?
Would it shock you if I told you I haven't watched any movies this year? The only movies I've seen are Italian movies on TV, because like that was the most sort of low friction thing I could do. Yeah, that was, yeah.
Well,
I'm trying to think of like, have I actually seen any movies? And I mean, besides El Camino, which is not a 2022 movie, I honestly don't think we've seen any movies this year.
Well, that was part of my problem this year, is that I realized looking back that an awful lot of what I watched, at least in the first half of the year, were actually 2021 movies, including Matrix Resurrections, which we did for our Club MacStories AV Club. So I know you did watch that, but that actually came out a few days before Christmas of 2021. But I kind of will allow that one, Federico, because it was a pretty nice addition of the Matrix added to that whole canon of movies. If you're into sci-fi,
yeah, I really like that one as a sort of picking up where the Matrix trilogy, the original one, ended. And of course, I super appreciated like the visual effects work and Keanu Reeves' performance. Like that movie was actually very good, but it's just, strictly speaking, it's not a 2022 movie.
No, just by about 8 days or so. But in any event, the ones that I watched that I really liked, I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I mentioned on the show before.
I really need to see this.
You really should, Federico. I mean, it's very, very strange movie. I mean, it's but strange in a very creative way, about a woman who has tax troubles and runs a laundromat and becomes, gets connected with people from the future and has superpowers. And it's just so strange, but it's really fast paced, really interesting. And at the end is really about the relationship between herself, her husband, and her daughter, which is a real good story. Then the other two that I'll mention are Top Gun Maverick, which I think is on pretty much everybody's lists. I was very skeptical whether Top Gun would be good. I mean, I saw the original movie back in the day and loved it, but I really wasn't sure whether Top Gun had enough life left in it in 2022 to be a good movie. But it was really well done, and it was a fun, exciting movie to watch, especially if you like Tom Cruise movies and action. And then finally, I'll mention the Batman. And this is, I think the rule of making Batman movies these days is to go darker and darker and darker. This is, a very, very dark movie, not just in terms of the theme, but actually watching this. It looks great on OLED TV, Federico. You've got to maybe try this one out on your new TV, because it's very, very dark in the filming, but really fun adaptation of the whole theme, with the Riddler being kind of the main bad guy in this one. And so that's worth watching.
Nice. Okay, we'll add it to the list.
All right, Federico, before we go for the day, I do want to mention a handful of other ones that we heard from our club members in the Club MacStories Discord. And some of these are similar to what we have listed. I can't name them all here because I got so many from people, but Andor, which is the new Disney Plus Star Wars episode or series, got a lot of votes from people. That one just concluded not that long ago and is on my list to check out during the holidays. So I've heard good things about that in terms of it being really the best Star Wars series that has come out from Disney so far. Peacemaker, which I believe is an Amazon Prime Video show. Have not watched that, but sounds good. House of Dragon.
It's the prequel to...
to Game of Thrones.
To Game of Thrones, yes.
Then there's The Bear, another, I believe that's a Hulu show that a lot of people recommended, and then Acapulco from Apple TV Plus. Now, when it comes to movies, and I've put these on a bunch of these on my list. One is The Northman, The Northman is about Vikings, I believe. That one I'd like to see. Nope, which is a UFO story that is out now. And so I'll probably watch that this weekend. Then Prey, which is a Predator movie of all things, and on Hulu, which I've been meaning to watch but never got around to. And then finally, The Banshees of Inisherin, which is a Colin Farrell movie about an island on the west coast of Ireland. And that has been in theaters very recently. And I looked around here, and it's only playing in very, very, very limited places, not close to where I am. But it's supposed to be streaming very soon. I believe it's coming to HBO like the middle of December. So if Colin Farrell and Irish dramas attract you, that'd be a time to check it out, is later this month. So I'll be doing that myself. All right, Federico, that's another one down. We still got video games to go, and I know that we've had a little more time to play video games this year. So we will be back next week to talk to everyone about video games and taking some recommendations from people in our Club MacStories Discord again, because it was a lot of fun to hear what everybody's top of 22 lists were. All right, Federico, that's it for this week. We'll be back again, as I said. You can find the two of us over at MacStories.net. Federico is on Twitter and Instagram, where he's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHSS. Talk to you next Friday, Federico.
Ciao, John.